Kent Adams here with the Pulse of Spokane. I hope you're having a cool day, which means you're probably inside. This is a hot week. We're setting records, quite unusual. Think about this day in about January of 2022 when you've been shoveling the snow to get out of your driveway. Anyway, it's time to find out what's going on in our Spokane and area community, especially in real estate, especially in industrial and commercial properties. You know, we just finished a pandemic. Perhaps you slept through it all, but it's affected office space and industrial space. We're going to talk about that with Gordon Hester right after this.
To help you be safe, Washington state law requires you to call 811 2 full business days before you plan, for example, to dig, drill, plow, pull from, or pound anything into the ground. Be prepared to provide the operator with the correct address, cross street, and the description of your work. You must mark the dig area with white paint. The operator will inform you of the utilities notified of your impending excavation. Wait for all their marks. Be safe and dig with care.
Well, if you're going to call before you dig, get inside and do it from there, okay? Because it's too hot outside. Gordon Hester, how are you?
I'm doing good.
Yeah. I was teasing you before we went on the air because you're about 4 blocks away from here, your office, right?
5.
Okay, who's counting? 5. Oh, he's counting because on a hot day, you drove over, didn't you?
I did drive over.
Yeah.
Parked in the shade.
Oh, good for you. Good for you. It's been a month or two since you've been here. What's going on? I don't see all the buildings filled and all the parking spots filled downtown. We love being downtown. And by the way, thank you for your staff in finding us the space. We appreciate it. Yeah, good team. You got a good team.
Thank you.
Yes, and you guys had to put up with me. So you survived.
We put our toughest person on it.
Right, exactly. She did a good job. Where are we headed? I worry about downtown because whatever happens in downtown really sets the tone for the rest of our communities.
Right.
And I know that. And that's one of the reasons I love coming back to downtown. But where are we? Are we starting to fill up space? Are we still seeing places empty out on us? Kind of bring us up to date if you can.
So the last official survey we did was November, and the vacancy rate downtown was about 15%. In the office space, and it was about 9% in retail.
Okay.
So between November and today, we've added about another 110,000 square feet of vacant office space.
Ooh. Okay.
So in the Class A, the bigger, the high-rise type properties, vacancy rate's now about 25%. And it really is made up of a lot of, I would say, 10 to 20,000 foot floor plates, big type of corporate space, call center space. So, those type of companies that probably had a little more flexibility in how they manage their employees working from home.
Okay.
So we saw a big increase in the overall vacancy, but we've seen a lot of activity in the smaller retail sector.
Okay.
We've seen a couple of the spaces.
A positive reason.
Positive, yeah.
Okay.
A couple of the spaces that went vacant, Rocky Rococo's.
Yes.
And Chronic Tacos both went vacant at the start of the pandemic, and
Yes.
now both of those spaces are going to be reoccupied.
Okay.
A lot of activity in the 2,000 to 4,000 square foot range for office tenants, so that's promising. And it doesn't fill 25% of the vacancy hole we have, but at least we're seeing some momentum and some excitement.
And that's important. And I think it's that moving forward that helps everybody build the confidence. Well, if I go back downtown, even with maybe smaller space, because some of my folks want to remain at home and work from there or hybrid or whatever, these days. But that there's going to be success downtown. And
well, we need it. Frankly, that population, the workforce downtown makes up a big population that shops and eats and recreates downtown. So we need that population to be back.
Are we starting to see more regular hours? I'm thinking with restaurants and things like that.
We are.
Because I remember several times I would look at, they're going to be open Thursday through Friday. And then I show up to meet somebody and it's, Friday through. And it was during the pandemic when things are so flighty.
Right.
Well,
and now that the restaurants have the opportunity to be open at 100% capacity.
Yes.
The challenge is labor. And we're seeing that with a lot of restaurants that simply don't have the labor to stay open 7 days a week. So,
Yeah.
we're hoping as the state is now fully opened up that we'll get people back to work and that they'll be able to get the labor to then serve the population.
Yeah. I've heard things like women, especially a couple million women across the country, don't plan to go back to work.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, and of course, women were hit the most during the pandemic, trying to work from home, school their kids at home, and so forth. But we might have some changing dynamics there, with if more women aren't going to come back, and just as they were so becoming so integrated in everything we're doing now, maybe folks are reassessing that. There was a time when not both the husband and wife worked
Right.
back. I mean, I think to my parents' day and so forth. Maybe some of that's happening too. I don't know, but are you seeing the dynamics of change?
The weird thing is, and we were talking about this a couple days ago in one of our staff meetings, that real estate, you can say it's very simple, it's supply and demand. But if you artificially impact demand or supply, all of a sudden it's really hard to predict what's going to
Yes.
happen with those two dynamics. You've got construction prices that have gone up 100% in some cases.
Yeah.
We were looking at a big construction project the other day and told that we can't get doors for 6 months. So even if we get the lease done, we can't get the tenant in for 6 months. So there's other things now that are impacting that supply and demand that aren't traditional issues.
Right.
People's decision to stay out of the workforce. And so it'll be interesting to see how that all starts to come back and fit into that traditional supply and demand model, because it's frankly not traditional anymore. It's a little different.
Yeah. What's happening to prices? I mean, we know what's happening on the home front. Okay. I'm told that realtors are saying, well, I ask a client, well, how much, what are you looking for? I'm looking for a $350,000 house, which is actually below mid-range now. Okay. At one time it would be in the middle or higher in Spokane, and they're counseling their clients. That means we'll start with $250,000, because what you're going to have to bid up will get you close to that 350.
Right.
Are we going to see that kind of demand on the commercial and industrial
I don't
anytime
think
soon? Do you think?
you're seeing it now in apartments.
Okay.
The apartment vacancy right now is 1%. I've never seen the market this tight for apartment complexes. And your challenge you have is your average rents in Spokane are still low enough. They're a little hard to justify new construction. You see a lot of new construction in the pipeline. So we're going to see that big top of the market new product be very expensive to move into. Office space, I don't think there's just not enough demand. You're not going to see that increase
Okay.
in the price of office space.
So there's still good deals out
I
there.
think there's still good deals out there,
Yeah.
and the challenge will be justifying the construction costs, because the remodel costs have gone way up.
Yeah.
So if my rent hasn't moved, but my construction costs have gone up 100%, it gets really hard to put those transactions together. So for the salesperson, that's what you're really trying to do: bring that buyer and seller, or that landlord and tenant together. That dynamic gets a lot more difficult. But
I was going to ask you, that brings up a really good point, and we don't often think about this. I do at times on the home sales and so forth, single family and that sort of thing. But how are realtors doing right now with all of these changes? It's like, what's the rule today kind of thing with the changing dynamic. It must be getting tough.
It's interesting because our office stayed relatively open throughout the entire pandemic, and there was a 3-month period where you weren't allowed to show any office space or retail space in person, and that really hurt the brokers because typically you have to have momentum and a pipeline as you continue to build your business, and you don't work on one transaction until it's done and then go to the next. You actually have a series of them. So.
Or you starved to death.
So April through July last year was a little rough as we went from having no ability to show space to opening back up. But the brokers that have been active in the market commercially did very well last year.
Okay.
And the ones that decided to work from home and weren't out in the market really struggled.
Really?
And we've had a couple that, I think weren't very pleased when they got to the end of the year and they looked at production and said, wow, we didn't do any business and didn't earn any money.
Yeah.
So it's understanding that real estate is a relationship business, and you have to be out and you have to be understanding the market and meeting the client, and you can't do that remotely.
Are we going to get to where we start developing, do you think, condos and so forth, because I know it's been very hard with the regulations that the state has put on condos. I believe it's the state, if I remember
Yeah.
correctly. And that's closed down a lot of that market.
Yeah, the condominium liability for a developer, basically you're liable for any defect in the property forever, even when you've sold it out. So that really discourages.
I'm sorry, but where's the logic in that?
There is no logic, but
Okay.
that's we really have to, legislatively, we've argued pretty hard for condominium law reform to get something reasonable that holds a developer liable for the period, a reasonable period where a
Yes.
defect would be discovered, and then that allows them to build without incurring gigantic costs for insurance.
Right. Yeah, because how do you prevent things that are being done 20 years later by somebody else?
You don't.
Ridiculous.
So there does need to be legislative fixes for that.
Yeah. Do you think there's hope that we can get some of that change?
There's a lot of discussion about that nationally. I have not had a lot of traction at the state level, but I think it is an issue, especially with the housing crisis we're in. We're going to have to do something creative to get that done.
Yeah.
So now more people are starting to understand that issue.
You've probably heard these numbers, but we're about 30,000 units short on the home side.
Mm-hmm.
And what does that do for your company to bring in other industries and others? Because fine, we can get you a good deal, a decent deal right now on your plant
Right.
or your office space. You want more employees? Good luck. Where are they going to live?
Well, and that, in particular, if you look at, like what you call it, workforce housing, or the mid to lower level type of jobs, it gets very difficult
Yeah.
for them to ever afford a house or to find an apartment with 1% vacancy. So those types of challenges are very real.
Yeah.
And when we're working with, county commissioners, city council, they have to understand how that impacts the ability to continue to grow the economy and house people. And we've got to get fixes for that.
I'm going to take a wild guess, you might be getting a better ear from the county commissioners than you are from city council.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, and I don't think
I don't
that's a
put you on the
giant secret, but that's a more real estate business friendly group that understands some of those challenges a little better.
Right.
But it's incumbent upon us to continue to work with the city council and help them understand, this is what this problem is doing to your constituents
Yeah.
as well.
And that you can't just want more housing.
No.
You've got to build a pathway to get there.
Correct.
And a lot of that's regulation.
Yeah,
it really is.
You don't snap your fingers and it doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay, so what's the one big thing coming our way in commercial and in industrial office space and so forth that we should be watching for? Give out the trade secret.
The
here.
trade secret.
Yeah.
The interesting thing that we've seen in the investment market, we talk about capitalization rates that a year and a half or 2 years ago were in that 6 to 7% range. Those people are now wanting or more aggressive in their purchases, so those cap rates are down. We've seen them 4 to 5 now,
Okay.
and like multifamily cap rates are down in 3.5 in some cases.
Okay.
So when your cap rates get close to your interest rates, you all of a sudden have negative, your cost of debt equals your return on investment, and that's kind of an interesting time from a standpoint of, unless you get the appreciation in rents, you've got a real problem with cash flow in your building. So it'll be interesting to see 12 months from now how some of that plays out.
You do the larger facilities in terms of apartments and those units and so forth. But there are an awful lot of small, family-owned duplexes, triplexes, small apartments, converted homes, those kinds of things. And they've really been hit in the market, haven't they?
Well, the mom and pop owner that has 4 to 8 units, if you will, if you have 2 renters that aren't paying their rent and you're not allowed to evict them and you're not allowed to collect it, you're out of business. And so there are people that are losing their investment real estate, or they're just saying, we're selling it and we're done.
Yeah.
And that's taking housing out of the market. I had 2 rental units that I sold, just did not want to have rental housing anymore. The environment for being an owner is not good. So you lose that housing stock from a rental standpoint.
And for
forever.
people who that's their retirement.
Yeah.
In many cases, they're not making a huge profit or anything else, but now they're losing money.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's not, if you have a 100-unit apartment complex and you have 3 tenants that aren't paying their rent, it's much easier to manage than when you have a duplex and 1 tenant isn't paying.
Yes, no kidding.
That's 50% of your
from
income.
3% to 50%. Yes,
And you usually
even I can figure that out.
And you usually
Gordon.
still have a mortgage. You usually still have
Yes.
to pay your insurance.
Yes.
You have utility costs,
Yeah, taxes.
taxes. Yep.
Yeah, even though some of that's being not forgiven but can be postponed, it's still due.
Right.
Okay? Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
My pleasure.
And good to have you here.
Love the studio. It's
Don't
beautiful
you like
in
it?
here. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah,
in
you
here.
got, well, you had something to do with it, you know? By the way, we have some painting on the wall that we need, and so we have a thing for you to wear and a painting hat.
Perfect.
Okay.
I am a
And
jack of all
you can
trades,
stay
so
around for that,
we'll
right?
take care of that.
Because it is hot outside. It is air conditioned right now, so stay here, okay?
We'll do it.
Okay. Gordon Hester, thank you very much. For Kiemle Hagood, good people in town. We appreciate all that Jamie and others did to keep us on track. It was up and down like everything is today, you know, with the pandemic. What you know today is going to be different tomorrow.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching The Pulse of Spokane, everybody. Have a good day.
The world has changed a lot in 50 years, and Kiemle Hagood has changed with it. We still provide our customers with the highest level of service, whether it's financing, construction management, property management and maintenance, leasing, or sales. Our team is here to help you make the best decisions with your real estate.
I had no idea how to be an adult, let alone a mom. I grew up in over 20 foster homes, so I partied to escape. I wanted to change, but I had no idea what to do. UGM showed me that healing begins with the heart, with understanding how much we are loved by a good God. My kids and I started over with a whole new foundation. Real people, real change. Union Gospel Mission.
Hi, this is Kurt Stockwell with Well Dressed Walrus. We are a local website design and development company here in Spokane. What we do is build beautiful, usable websites for local businesses. A website needs to be beautiful, it needs to be usable for your users, your customers, and yourself. Contact us anytime. We'd love to talk with you about your online marketing.
Thanks for watching. Ask the host a question, recommend a guest, or check out any of our other programs on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or SpokaneTalksMedia.com. Sponsored by Local 29 Firefighters Union, Well Dressed Walrus, and Homes for You.